The irony, I was about to start the episode by saying that the last one was the best recorded ever because the sound was pristine, and we've been having issues for the past 12 minutes about trying to set up your microphone.
Yeah, of course. It's always the way.
Yeah.
I think that means my Mac Pro is finally like, just kill me. Just kill me. My poor Mac Pro. All right.
So we're going to need this. We're going to need a lot of luck, I think.
I just want to tell you both good luck. We're all counting on you.
Yes. Yes, we are.
So we're back. We're back after, 6 weeks and a hiccup. We were supposed to record a few weeks ago. It didn't happen for many reasons. You'll see why. You'll understand eventually why. Nothing somber, just that we had a date, everything was set up, and then we couldn't. And then I left for Italy. We'll do a redo of that one. And we've both been traveling. You've been in quite a few places, but I think that today we want to do the promise I gave at the end of the previous episode, which is the Italian flavored turkey, because it will have 3 flavors of Italy and a bit of Turkey, because you've been to Turkey. And for once, it will be interesting because I'm going to be the one who's done the stuff that we always do, which is flying BA 3 times to these airports that I will describe. And you've been the one going for an airline you had never flown with to an airport you had never flown to. So that will be interesting. Or from, by the way. Which I'm very interested to hear about. You guys understood the little quip, Turkey, so Turkey, Istanbul, the new Istanbul, which I've been to, and I think we've done an episode about I was about to say a few years ago, but with COVID, I don't know when that was. I had been just when it was opened, and I had been only on a layover, so I described that as well as I could, and it was clearly not fully there yet, as in it was amazing, but not fully there. We'll go there in the second part of the show. First, we'll start with Italy for the last remaining days of summer we were having. We're recording today the 27th of September 2023. This will count, guys, as the episode of September, no matter when I can release this, because I have so much work that I might not be able to release it before the 1st or 2nd of October. But if that, please, it's still the September episode. And I need to play the music before there we go. I'm personally very happy to see Alex. I haven't seen him in forever, even on the screen.
Yeah, it's been ages.
How have you been? All good?
Good, yeah. I think since we last recorded, we celebrated my grandmother's 100th birthday, which is kind of a fun milestone. And my son's 13th, so...
That was one of the reasons we didn't record that particular episode that will be going later in the year, because you had a very busy schedule. And then when you told me that, I was like, 100, holy cow, that's crazy. Yeah. I hope for you, and you probably do, have this set of genes.
I hope so too.
You'll be able to do layovers and attaché until you're 100. I'll already be dead already by then, but you can keep up the flame.
I hope so. She is the definition of a life well lived, so we enjoyed celebrating her.
Yeah, well, I'm sure. How was it? Was it fun? I think your brother Will was there as well, right?
Yeah, my brother, all of us were here, all the grandkids, great-grandkids, so it was a monumental week of celebration. And she's not a person that enjoys that type of attention, but I think she was able to really enjoy us all coming together for literally a once-in-a-lifetime moment. So it was great.
That's fantastic, man. I mean... I can only wish all of you guys that you can live to 100, if you want to, obviously.
If you want to, exactly.
Exactly, if you want to. And if you're in the form that she is as well, because you told me, and I've seen a few stories from Will where she appears, and I was like, damn, she doesn't look like she's 100. She looks like very full of energy. That's
she still lives on her own, still takes care of herself, weeds the garden, can drink me under the table. And she's for sure.
And you told me, didn't you tell me that she did this crazy travel when she had to... What, did she go to Australia or something? And it took her like 2 weeks?
She was born in India, and her parents lived there while she was at school in the UK. And so she would take the Imperial Airways flights from London back to India. And she wrote a journal of it, I mean, just as an offhand sort of travel log of the journey. And produced it just like maybe like 3 or 4 months ago. And it was absolutely captivating. Shorthand, recollections of stops in all of these places that in some places are literally dust now. But she recalls it very fondly and very vividly. It's like having your very own time machine to be able to talk to somebody who's experienced that. So
in an era where we can never actually experience, including the way people used to travel. Right? It's now we can just zip through the air. That was not equipped on the Zip Air, but to zip through the air like in direct flights to wherever. It was
more of a journey, wasn't it? And some of the places that they stop off are now completely inaccessible for geopolitical reasons and geographic reasons. So it was interesting to hear. If you guys fly BA long haul on their IFE, buried in I think it's in the branded section maybe, or box sets, I can't remember, of the IFE, is a British Airways channel. And in there, they've got all of these wonderful paraphernalia videos, propaganda videos that were sort of co-produced with Imperial Airways. And it shows some of this stuff, and it's just mind-blowing what that experience was like. So I love it. I watch it, even if I watch them 100 times, I watch them every time I fly.
I don't think I've ever watched it. No, I need to watch it.
Oh, it's wonderful. There's maybe 25 videos from throughout from the 30s all the way up to the early 80s.
Nice. Well,
yeah. Well worth spending some time on.
Exactly. That settles my next long haul with BA. There you go. Why did I never watch? Maybe because it's buried under brand, which is not the most obvious for historical. I don't want to be given like commercial lessons about how cool a logo is.
No, it's like the HBO brand and the TED brand. It's in a different section on each IFE system just to make it even harder. But it's so worth looking for.
Well, I will do. So let's go to Italy to start with, if you don't mind.
I'm excited to hear about this.
I should point out. We've obviously, as always, gotten a lot of feedback from our previous episodes. I'll put them in plural, especially the one when you described in the last one your journey, not like your grandmother, but still a journey throughout the US, then Japan, and back via Hawaii. By the way, we forgot to say last time, we were thinking obviously about the victims of the huge fires in Hawaii. We should have mentioned that last time.
Yeah.
And that includes as well in Greece as well. There's been others during this summer, sadly. I'm not going to do feedback for a very simple reason, is that I have so much work these days that I just didn't have time to gather the feedback. So guys, I'm so sorry. I might do next time, whenever that is. I have a full, until the first week of November, I'm really under the water. It's floods of emails. And the fact that I've been just on holidays in September, was great. I'll come to that, but was not good for my workload because I'm really suffering right now. So thank you for Alex for finding adapting his timing for me this morning to being able to record one episode at least for now. So Italy, for some reason, the 3 airports all start with the letter B. But it's not like Canada, where all the airports start with the letter Y.
You've never been to Canada?
To play that, of course. It's just because I've been to Bologna, Brindisi, and Bari, and they all start with the letter B. That's it, right? So let's start with Bologna, BLQ. It's not a sandwich. So compared to last time when I took BA, remember I took the tube and I mistakenly stopped at the wrong station in the wrong terminal, and I was like, oh wow, this airport has changed. This time I took an Uber. I said, better be safe than Paul stupid. And I went, it was 5:30 a.m. as well. That also explains it, because at 5:30 there's, for me, it's still difficult to grab the Piccadilly line. Anyway, I arrived there and it's already buzzing on Washington Road. For those who don't know, Washington Road is the name of the road where they drop you off. They actually have a name for that road, Washington Road. T5, it was already buzzing. First swing was super fast. That was in the summer though, so we're talking here July. The security was very random, I remember, because, when they put you to that machine that turns around, the guy had to do it 3 times with me. And I said, but why? He said, yeah, you're too tall.
What?
Yeah.
But it's not like you had a little growth spurt over the summer. You've always been quite tall, so
right.
That's weird.
Anyway, well, I passed, but I'm too tall for this machine. So Heathrow, please do upgrade your machines, or I don't know, or maybe I'll reduce the length of my legs. Anyway, nice, first swing was nice, coffee, my fruit salad, and my pain au chocolat. As you guys know from now, I always take a pain au chocolat.
Crowded?
It was actually nice. It was not too full. It was 6 at that time. At 6:30, however, it was completely rammed by people. It's like we said many times, it feels like everyone, their grandmother and their ghost is traveling. It's just incredible. There was no more seats available. I mean, I know you've been a few times as well. Have you also seen all the lounges full every single time?
I haven't been through T5 since I got back from California. So, and the other ones I've taken were out of London City, where there is no lounge. So, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, because I'm wondering, I was sat there watching all these people, and thank God I had a seat. Then again, I didn't stay because when it becomes too busy, it was like, I'm just going to go to the terminal. I'm wondering if, first of all, there's more delays. So maybe more people are waiting in the lounges for longer, so they clog up the lounges. There's also, there've been some bad weather as well, obviously. There's more people seemingly, and I'll come to that in another flight that I've done. There's more people flying in premium cabins lately, especially on short hauls. So maybe that adds up to people that have access to lounges. I'm not only talking here the first class lounge, but all lounges. And when I say all lounges, I'm also wondering, because the other was the galleries lounge, galleries north, south, etc., are also completely rammed, and I'm wondering if that's because so many people got downgraded to silver, and that's where they can go now. But that still means that, I don't know, there's and there's simply, because there's still a little bit of shortage of aircrafts, maybe there's fewer rotations, so aircraft are more full, which is maybe good for the load factors, but then everybody comes at the same time. And it really feels like it's, and maybe, that's the last one I thought about. Maybe, and I am in this game as well, because we're out of COVID, but we've been trained to come super early just in case. I mean, you and me, we've always been early, which means that people tend to linger maybe longer in lounges as well. I don't know.
There have been a lot of posts on Flyer Talk lately about the phenomenon that you're describing vis-a-vis T5, and that the people are being turned away from the galleries lounges, the business class lounges.
There you go.
Or there's an hour wait to get in, because all of the factors that you just described have been listed as possible / probable causes for this. So it seems to be like a confluence of circumstance, which I have not experienced yet, but I will, I guess, the next time I fly be at a T5, which I don't know when that will be, because I keep trying to avoid it.
I'm going to mention something about this first class lounge, following, because that at that point in July I was like, it's fine. I didn't stay. I stayed for 20 minutes basically, and I had my pain au chocolat, my coffee, and I went out. I was at gate A1, so the other side. I walked through. The airport was rammed. I knew that the plane was there from last night, the night before, so I was like, it's fine, there's no delay. It was a 320, I think, A320 that was maybe 10 years old. What was interesting at the gate, so the flight was full to Bologna. At the gate, you had clearly some tension, I would even say anger. A lot of people were asked to actually check in at the gate, and they didn't like that, including people that were status silver, etc. They didn't like that. I was gold, so probably in my luggage, I was leaving for 3 days, so it was not really big. Even though it was a wedding and I had like some attire, it was fine. But it didn't fly well. People are a bit more tense as well. I think the fact that there's more people, there's all these things, the COVID, it creates a little bit of anxiety, and maybe a little bit, it was no insults or whatever, nothing to do with your drunken, crazy, stupid passenger in your flight that you described last time. But still, I was traveling in business class on that one, and so Club Europe, as they call it. What I love about, as you know, there's nothing special about, you just have a seat free in the middle. But I was in the first row, and the reason I was flying business class is because the business class the flights are still very expensive to Europe, even in economy. And the difference between BA economy and BA business class was like £50. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to get some miles maybe. What I love about that first row is that the overhead bin is very big on top. I mean, it's a normal overhead bin. However, because in many other airlines, and I'm looking at you, Lufthansa, that first the first bin that is above row 1 is a tiny one. And I cannot put even my luggage because some crew has put like some stuff there. And so I'm thank you, BA, for having this big one. I know it's a very stupid thing, but I like that. So then suddenly I said there was no delay, but we're waiting. And the captain comes on the PA and says, we're supposed to be full. We're supposed to be on time. But there are 20 passengers from New York that were delayed and now very delayed and now won't be able to make it. And that's why you're seeing empty seats. So suddenly there were a lot of empty seats. People were quite happy. In other words, what he said is that, too bad, you're late, goodbye. So we left. There was no, I'm going fast, as you can see on this flight, because there's nothing special really, because we've done so many times these type of flights. No recognition, but again, I repeat, I don't care, even though it was in business class. But they were nice. Nothing great, nothing bad. It was better than neutral. So it was a pleasant flight. Nothing special about it.
I have a question because I'm trying to figure out if this is a theme or not. Was your meal hot or cold? If you can remember.
Cold.
Yeah.
Yes, cold.
Yeah. I think almost all of them now in Club Europe, irrespective of the time of day, are cold.
You're right. I didn't pick it up last time, but used to be that the morning flights you had like some kind of breakfast that was an omelette or something that was hot. No, you're right. It was cold.
I think that's a trend. And actually, I personally think that it improves the quality, because if you're giving somebody a cheese, a charcuterie for breakfast instead of a foul powdered egg omelet, you know what? I think you have a higher chance of success. So okay, that's interesting. So it's not just what are they called? BA City Flyer. So that's interesting. I think that's good. I think that's a good choice.
Yeah, no, you're right. Actually, you trigger a memory when I was flying heavily with Lufthansa and heavily starting also the first flight in the morning. It was never hot. It was always also some cold cuts. And like you said, it's easier to present them well because they already present 100%. On the plate and everything. Whereas sometimes, like you said, the omelette, when they have to put it on the plate, put it like in the heating thing.
Yeah,
it looks a bit soggy and not the most.
Oh, it's foul. Yeah. I mean, I think about my Swiss flight from Lisbon to Zurich, and it was a box, and it was cold, and it was delicious. So much easier. I really hope that BA are doing what I think they're doing on this one, because it will just make it all a little bit more palatable.
We'll get to that because we had one feedback that I might go later about the drink service. But I have the note somewhere, so I'm not going to mention it now because it could also be cost cutting. I'm not sure. It might be just easier as well not to have to heat every single thing.
Yeah,
it's less work. I don't know. So I land in Bologna. It's raining. You're like, in July, what the hell? Anyway, so Bologna Airport, it's the first time I've been there. It's not very big because Bologna, I don't know, maybe the city must be like a few million people. There was a lot of Ryanair aircrafts and one Turkish. This is something you're going to talk about. And I think one US airline. I don't remember which one. Passport was super fast, of course, because I have a passport that is not British, so I can actually use a queue that goes much faster. Hello, Alex. I'm sure that you have stories now to tell us about that. The guy wanted to stamp my passport. I look at him and said, no. There's no need to put a stamp. I was the fastest out there. The one thing of note at that airport on arrival is that as soon as you clear, baggage claim and everything, what is there? Usually some airports provide you with an exit duty-free shop. No, there's a Lamborghini dealer.
Of course there is.
Of course there is, right. And there's this, I don't remember which, my limit to know Lamborghini is Countach. Maybe that's a car we grew up with. I don't know what model they have, Avented or something. It was there like in all its like goldish glory, and literally you could buy one. Because I entered, I said, okay, come on, I need to see if it's actually a shop or just a display. No, there's a sales rep. There's a receptionist, and they take you through, like you can even enter the car, which I didn't do because at that time I needed to go grab my car, a Europe car, which was not, strangely enough, a Lamborghini. I wish.
How disappointing.
Anyway, that's really the one thing of note, because other than that, I mean, there's nothing special to note about that airport. I'll come more interestingly when I've left. Actually, I had a Chinese car. It's the first time, I driven a Chinese car, so I arrive and they give me like, we've upgraded you to an SUV. I'm like, oh, super cool. And I look, what is Lynk and Co? Lynk and Co. And I actually looked it up. It's Geely. So basically what it is, it's a Volvo XC60. Everything is Volvo, and I think they just redid the exterior to look at like a spaceship. Great car. But then again, I like Volvos. But anyway. So I stopped on the way with the car. This is just an aside in Modena. Since we
Ferrari's hometown.
And yeah, it's the Motor Valley because there's, like you said, Ferrari, but Maserati is around. There's Lamborghini as well. And I think Ducati.
Motorcycles.
They're also there. De Tomaso, Pagani, all the guys are basically in that region. And most of them have headquarters in Modena. I didn't go, sorry guys, I didn't go to see any. There's a Ferrari museum. I just went to see some architecture. There's Aldo Rossi we created. I know, that's me being very weird. You learned something about me. I mean, Alex already knows. I spent 2 hours in a cemetery because there's a cemetery in Modena where Aldo Rossi, who is a famous architect, has built parts of the cemetery. It looks like something out of science fiction. It's really wonderful. Of course, you have to be very respectful, but I did a lot of architecture photography. And then I left to... I'm weird, guys. Didn't go for Ferrari. I left to Mantua, or called Mantova, which was for Matteo Penzo's wedding. Wonderful little city. Had a lot of fun. Skip that, go back. And this time, that's interesting. So in that car, and this is why I mentioned the car, that car, and it's something I appreciate, there's a CarPlay. You can just plug your iPhone.
That. Yeah, super
and
useful.
automatically you put your destination, which is better than fiddling with whatever GPS they already set now, if you're British, whatever you have there. The thing is, and I'm going to show it to Alex, so let me open my phone. I put Bologna Airport. I was a bit... post-wedding, shit, I have to go to the airport. I have like a 2 hour, like an hour and 45-minute drive or something. I want to be early because it's the first time actually departing from Bologna, and I don't know about customs, and I don't know about, Brexit, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, I go to the car, and of course, also, I should mention, having an SUV in a small Italian town is also not very recommended because every turn you do it like 3 times. And especially when your car is parked in the tightest possible place in an underground garage, probably built by the Romans. It took me like half an hour to get out. Thank God for all the cameras around. Anyway, and I quickly, and I don't know if it's a jokester, I quickly put Bologna Airport on Apple. And I'm going to show to Alex. So, where's the camera here? This is Bologna. Maybe, sorry, it's not. But anyway, I'm going to just zoom in, and you'll see where Bologna Airport is on Apple. It's in the middle of the city.
Is it?
Exactly. So anyway, the thing is, because I didn't check, I just put Bologna Airport, go.
Seems reasonable.
And I drive, and I drive, and I drive. And at some point, I see that's me being stupid. I see like the sign saying airport this way, and I'm like, yeah, but the car tells me to go straight. So I go straight. And at some point, I'm like in the middle of the city, and I'm like, there's no way there's an airport in the middle of the city. Or maybe there is. Maybe it's such a tiny airport like it's London City Airport. Maybe it's actually tucked into after a corner. I'll see it. And I don't know why I've done this. And of course, I'm driving, and I'm not stopping, so I cannot really fiddle with the map to see. And so I basically landed in the center of the city because some random dude has put, because there's another Bologna Airport on Apple Maps, some random dude has probably put a pin there that is being accepted by Apple. I don't know. Or maybe it's the old location of the headquarters of Bologna Airport offices. Anyway, so I lose like a lot of time in Italian traffic in rather small streets, and then I'm going to be stressed out. I'm going to miss. So, once I missed I took the wrong tube station, and this time I take the actually
wrong airport.
Exactly. So basically, I'm in
well, quote unquote airport, right?
Yeah, and it's like this kind of moment of like these 10 minutes of like, yeah, maybe it's a shortcut. Well, maybe actually the airport is quite central to the city, but after all, I'll get there. And it kind of sinks over time. You keep driving, there's traffic, there's people behind you, or plus, if you don't drive too fast, they like honk and flash you. So I'm like, okay, I'm going. And I'm like, oh, I need to stop and I need to check that. And I'm like, where the hell am I? Anyway, I was able to visit a little bit of Bologna, though. That was kind of nice. Anyway, I ended up, of course, refinding the right route to the airport. I lost 40 minutes to do this little adventure. Anyway, because like you, I'm always early. It was fine. I could realize then that the airport has a lot of work that is being done. So, of course, as always, the arrivals when the Lamborghini shop is on the ground floor and the departures on the upper, like traditional airports. But basically, the entire departure thing is completely in reconstruction to the point that you cannot even access with the car. There's a ramp, everything is closed. Anyway, I go there. And I'm looking, because I'm cold, I'm saying, maybe there's a fast track, and maybe there's a lounge. Well, so first is they're very badly signed, but what I realize is that the fast track is in the lounge. So the lounge is landside, and then from the lounge you have a fast track. What do you think about these kind of designs?
I'm just trying to think about how that would work. I think if it's executed well, it could be fantastic.
Yeah, so there's a few things I love. First, it's a bit confusing, but the one thing that is really interesting is that it means that if you have priority pass, which allows access to that lounge, it's a unique lounge, it's the only lounge, or any other form BA Gold was also allowing me, it means that you're guaranteed to get fast track because you're in the lounge. So as long as you have any type of access, even though you might not have had fast track through but your priority pass doesn't give you fast track, well, you have access. So that's a plus. The only maybe negative is that it doesn't really tell you how long is that and then for the gate, so you assume it's a small airport. But that's it. You're still landside as long as you're in the lounge. So I'm overthinking this. I'm like, should I go now? Should I go? And the last bit, and that's for you guys if you ever go to Bologna Airport, is that fast track closes at 7 p.m. Meaning that if you were to have a later flight, which I did, at some point you'll have to exit and go through the normal security.
So you can be in the lounge and then come out and go through.
Yeah.
Okay.
But what I did is, because I absolutely wanted to try that fast track, even though it was a bit early for me, I went just before the closing of that fast track at just 6:55, and it's nothing to write home about. There's like 2 people there waiting in line, and I go, and it was pretty quick. One of the 2 people, by the way, was probably 16 and was a Ryanair pilot.
I know, they all look so young, don't they?
Right.
All of them.
I know it's us becoming old, and when you look at them, like,
there's no way. There's no way. Do your parents know where you are? Yeah, it's no. I'm glad it's not just me that looks at those guys. And I know that they're eminently qualified. Of course they are, but it's sort of like,
of course,
you look awfully young.
Yeah. I was like looking at him, he was just in front of me, like doing his security thing. I was like, no, there's no way. He's not of age. He's not even 18. He cannot even drink or something. Anyway, no, again, I reiterate what Alex just said. I am fully in agreement with him. They are very qualified. It's just that maybe because I'm reaching soon, not soon, I'm 48, but the age of 50, I look at everybody who's young, like, they look and maybe also because sometimes, their outfit, their work outfit is not completely fitted, and you feel like, are you not too tiny in your this big suit? Yeah. You know what I mean? God. Anyway, quick word about that lounge. It's an okay lounge. Nothing special. Too many people. So you see, it's not only T5 at Heathrow. Maybe too many people for its own good. As in, there are quite a lot of seats, but there were not quite a lot of space to sit. So I did that fast track. Entered the airport. It's nothing special, but it's a zoo, man. It's a freaking zoo. There's so many people. So I said, okay, well, I'm just going to go to the duty free to buy some salami, because as you do when you're in Italy, and some stuff to go to take back home. And the strangest thing happened, actually, by the way, at that duty free. I use my Revolut, because Revolut, and it's not paid advertisement, guys, is that there's no, foreign exchange fees on foreign currency. So I use that, and they charged me. You know how you can choose between 2 things? So it said one was, of course, euro, the other was British pounds. For some reason, when I got the thing, I was charging AED, so United Emirates dirham. Yeah.
That's weird.
I didn't go back. I was like, I saw it. But so is it Revolut, because, I have multiple accounts with multiple currencies, that did a mix-up, or is it the shop that said, oh, we can do a little bit of exchange? I don't know. I will never know. Anyway, just be careful.
That's odd.
Yeah, so many people. I should have probably stayed in the lounge, but anyway, I wanted to see that fast track. And then that's the fun bit of my trip. I'm at the gate and I'm seeing this plane arriving. I'm like, this is not BA. This is not BA. This is not BA. It's Finnair.
Ah, fantastic.
Yes. Although the announcements, they were only made in Italian, by the way. They were, handmade announcements, not pre-recorded ones. Said, this British Airways flight will be operated by Firefly.
What?
Firefly? So I know there's a Malaysian airline called Firefly that is part of One World, I think. So maybe because she was misread, because maybe she had all the co-chairs in front of her and said Firefly. No, it's not Firefly. It's really Finnair. Anyway, the boarding process is a bit messy, as is often in Italy. Sorry, guys, at least in smaller airports. There's a bridge, but then there's not. So you cross a part of the apron via a bridge, which doesn't move, it's literally a bridge. And then where there's supposed to be the bridge that actually links to the aircraft, no, you take the stairs down and you walk on the tarmac and you take back the stairs to the plane. So I'm not exactly sure. Did BA not pay, or maybe, I don't know, but for elderly people, it was not fun. But anyway, enter that Finnair 320, and immediately I was like, this is so Finnair, from tone of voice, from the colors, from of course the accents. I tried to say a few words in Finnish, hyvää heitä, which means good evening, and of course she started speaking to me in Finnish, and I was like, no, that's not gonna work. I have the passport, but I know 5 words. It was a 20-year-old 320. I was business class, and was super well kept and cleaned. The only thing maybe, and I think I sent you a picture, above me there was clearly a repair that had been done on where the air vents and the little signs, illuminated signs are. There was like a lot of scotch tape, but it was well done. If you hadn't paid attention to it, because I'm the kind like you, I look around at the plane like, oh, this is strange, you wouldn't have noticed there was the repair. But anyway, very good. The pilot had his typical Finn accent, talking about the accent of colors, these cool white and gray. It was unmistakably Finn.
It's a very pleasing aesthetic they have on those planes.
Absolutely.
We had one, Megan and I were coming back from Athens or Valencia, and had the same thing. And I really, really enjoyed the experience. Really enjoyed the experience.
Yeah, you see that's obvious for us and obvious for everyone listening that flies different airlines. You can see it's not only the tone of voice because of the decision of what they wanted to go with their brand, but it's simply also cultural. Finns are more less opulent. Mm-hmm. They're more stiff, I want to say, but it's not correct to use the term stiff. Sorry, my Finn friends, but it works, but you can feel a difference. This is very kind of respectful, distanced, but in a warm way as well. So no, it was really, I really did enjoy it. It was interesting. I didn't realize it's the 100th anniversary of Finnair. So they had the headrest, it was marked Finnair 100. The airline was born on the 1st of November 1923. Anyway, so we're there on the ground and everything is fine. And then the first announcement, we're sorry we were late. That was due to a delay at Heathrow.
Surprise, surprise.
Okay, of course, we know, always the same thing. And then 5 minutes later, he comes back and says, so Heathrow just informed us we cannot depart for another 85 minutes.
85?
85. They kept the AC running and everything, so that was great. However, that's where you can see a little bit of the disconnect using these kind of third party to create capacity, is that the crew apologetically said, we don't have the BA Crew app, so we're unable to check connections for you. When people were having a connection at Heathrow, they're like, we can't.
Oh, that's interesting.
They didn't say like, oh, good luck, and but they basically said, yeah, you'll have to see what you can do at Heathrow. Maybe you can call them on the phone now, but they didn't have that app. So, see.
That's an interesting disconnect, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Because BA have been reliant on third parties for a while now, and I think they've just signed some MOUs for throughout the rest of through the summer of 2024 to keep that capacity. Gosh,
absolutely.
They'll have to fix that problem. Good luck.
It's a small thing, but I mean, it's interesting to note because I hadn't been, unlike you, I hadn't been in one of those. But by the way, Flighty at that point was not. Flighty didn't register that flight. I didn't get the gate. No tail number. Nothing. So I had to rely on Trip in that trip. I don't know why for that specific bit. It happens. We'll sort that one out one day. Anyway, it's fun that the safety voice track is in Finnish, of course, as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it was interesting. And I love the Wi-Fi name, Nordic Sky.
Yeah, that's very Japanese.
Which made me think, JAL, just a Japanese, JAL should have a Fujisan.
Yeah.
And I don't know, BA should have Coronation Chicken.
I love Coronation Chicken.
And United would be Sunday ice cream.
Yeah.
I had a dinner because it was a late flight, as I understood, guys. I had beef. Man, it was very, very, very good. Very tender. They broke with the fork. You didn't need the knife. It was delicious. Wow. It's maybe Finnair, but also I would say trust the Italians to cater good food.
Yeah, one would hope.
Yeah, right. Oh, yeah, that's interesting. The cutlery, I don't know, maybe you remember that. I don't know if you were in Club Europe, in business class. The cutlery, the glasses, and the trolleys were all BA.
Yes. Yeah, because they're being catered out of Heathrow. Yeah. Even the menus, the menu was BA too. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, the staff, their outfit is Finnair and everything else is Finnair. It's really interesting. So because I was expecting to get that very famous glass they have. They have a glass where they serve you.
I love that.
Exactly. But they didn't have that. They had the BA with this. You see the logo is etched on it. Anyway, it was still nice. It's just interesting to see these little things. Arrival at Heathrow. So the flight was great. We arrive at Heathrow. Everything is fast, all good. Get to the Piccadilly. So really, and I saw on the ground, I saw a 380 by BA, and at that point, I also saw the news that BA is retrofitting the 380 with Club Suite, which means the 380 with BA will stay on for a while. So the new doors thing. It's good. So yeah, overall, great back and forth flight. The return with Finnair was probably better than BA. I don't know.
Yeah.
But not in a way that BA was bad. Since we're on Finnair, just a few things. Finnair, because of the 100th anniversary, that I looked it up back then, I was like, what's happening? They did repaint two A350s with their famous characters, Moomins.
Moomin, yeah.
For those who don't know, I'm sure you do know, there's these, how would you describe it? They look like hippopotamuses.
Yes, that's how I would describe it too. Magical Finnish hippos.
I think it's a series of books, at the start, and it's one of these things that went completely crazy, that they have like animated shows, and of course they have of course they have an attraction park in Finland, but what I didn't know, because I was looking up, they also have one in Japan.
I remember it being particularly big in Korea as well, so it doesn't surprise me that they've done that.
And they have a shop in Camden for those who live in London, because I spotted it a few weeks ago. And so these two 350s will show them these two characters. I forgot the name, the two main characters. Anyway, they'll be on the fuselage. It looks it's really cool. Finnair was in 2007 the first airline that ever ordered a 350.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I looked it up. So it's the sixth oldest airline still in operation.
Wow.
You know which one is the oldest one, I think?
KLM?
Yeah. Then it's Avianca, Qantas, Aeroflot, and Czech Airlines. And so Finnair is the sixth. But Finnair was originally named Aero, and I think they kept that name until after the Second World War. And Finnair started appearing like in the 50s, and it's only in the 60s that they did that full rebrand, which still lives to this day. This, simply using the Finnish flag, and that also that font they use for Finnair. So that was like in the 60s, and it's still to this day. And by the way, this is why, if you look at any apps to find your flight, the airline code is AY, because it's Aero A, and Osaka Hityo means company. So this is what it's not. People will say Finnair. Where's the F here?
I always wondered why it was AY.
They do a lot of first. It was the first ever Western airline to fly to Moscow.
That makes sense, I suppose, given its proximity to Russia.
It was the first ever small airline to enter the jet age. That was in the 60s. It was the first airline to have Rolls-Royce on these caravels in the 60s as well. It was the first airline in the world to ever fly a crew of 2 pilots instead of the 3.
Oh.
When they switched. They were the first one to do that.
A330 then?
I'm not sure. I didn't check. I was just looking at a little bit when I was Googling because I was in the flight. There was Wi-Fi, so looking for trivia about.
That's interesting. Oh, I want to dig into that one.
That's
That's an interesting piece of trivia.
They were also the first airline to fly non-stop flights between Western Europe and Japan. And probably, that trickles down to now when they are this kind of hub trying to get you to Asia, right? Because they were also, I think, one of the first airlines to fly to some part of Southeast Asia. But I know that they used, I don't have the notes, but I remember seeing that. That's in July, guys. I remember they used the term the shortest route to Asia. That was, I think, maybe part even of their advertising.
Yeah.
And when they were flying to Bangkok, it was the shortest way to get there. Of course, that's just pure geography. And I think they were also just when the USSR fell, there was the first airline to negotiate the overflight rights to cut time, so to being able to fly over Russia.
Yeah, not anymore.
Yeah, well, no, clearly not anymore. They are also the official airline for Santa Claus. Santa Claus lives in Finland. Yeah, I mean, they had a lot of firsts. I think the first airline from Western Europe to China, stuff like that. So they really...
pioneers.
Oh, and yeah, first airline to ever acquire and install defibrillators in their cabins. And they also did once an Angry Bird flight. It was a longest ever flight of Angry Birds. I don't know if that counts as a first, but yeah. Anyway, so it's Skytrax. We know what we think about. You guys know what we think about Skytrax. These boats are not always the most, but it's been named the best airline in Northern Europe for like 15 years. I don't remember it like this. It's a very good airline, right? So, and they have a sauna if you are at their Helsinki lounge, one of their lounges. And their last piece of trivia, one of their signature onboard drink is blueberry juice. More than 1 million liters of it every year.
1 million liters of blueberry juice.
I love these little things. And a friend of mine, was it a friend of mine? I remember seeing that, to your point about these wet leases, Yule to Munich. It was a Lufthansa flight operated by Eurowings, but actually using a Finnair plane. So it feels like Finnair is really playing on those, must be making quite a good money with that.
I mean, they had to,
system.
right? Because they lost so much of their business.
Yes.
They had no choice.
Absolutely. No, 100%. Hopefully one of us will be able to try their new business class. Anyway, back to BA. Philippe Plambeck, one of our listeners, sent us a very long message on Instagram. Thank you so much for this. Was it on Instagram? Yeah, I think so. Thank you so much, Philippe, for this. I'm not going to read through all of it, but one thing that was interesting, he was flying Club Europe, and you know how... In Club Europe, they usually, so in business class, in general in the world, in most airlines, they serve you one drink when you're already in the air. Then they start the food service, if time allows, of course. Then they start the food service. And then when you do food, they come back to serve you maybe the same one you had or maybe something else. Philippe said that in his flight, he was flying to Corfu, so it's probably a 4-hour flight or something, a 3.5-hour flight. So plenty of time to do that they would usually do. BA didn't serve the first drink, went directly to serve food, and then started the drink service. He said he was sat, I think, 11. He was not in the front. If I remember correctly, Philippe, I'm sorry if I don't have all the details right. But meaning that by the time, you know how it is, by the time you start eating and by the time you finish eating, he hadn't still been served any drinks. I know, guys, first world problems. But he asked, that's an interesting thing. He asked, and I have the quote here. The flight attendant told him, yes, we've been instructed to do so, to do it in that way to save on costs.
Don't tell the customer that.
Right? I don't know.
That's just,
So I don't know. It's cost, because I thought about it at first. I was like, this is ridiculous. But then I said, yeah, because if you, Alex, get the drink only when you have the food, you're probably not going to ask another time, because by then you're finished and you maybe can onboard less bottles. I don't know.
I'm repulsed by the fact that they told the customer it was due to cost cutting, but I'm trying to work out in my head how that actually works. And I think what you just described is the only way I can think it would actually do it. But
in July, when I flew that flight I just mentioned, that wasn't the case. At least I don't remember it particularly being a case of. Otherwise, I would have probably have triggered something. But then again, I was in row 1, so maybe I couldn't. Maybe by the time it was so quick that I didn't realize there was no. Guys, if you've flown BA recently in Club Europe,
he was in business class or economy?
I was in business class.
In Club Europe, yeah. And Philippe was too.
Also, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And he also says that apparently they switched to a different champagne. He says, by the way, not putting under the bus for those who are like rolling their eyes because we're talking about first world problem. He actually says, yeah, it's a first world problem, I know. But he adds, why do I keep buying products that I'm almost guaranteed to feel disappointed in?
It's a reasonable question.
Yeah. Reasonable question. And thank you, Philip, for having been to Corfu, to Greece. And I appreciate that as a Greek. I haven't been for a long time. Anyway, so the second flight, and then it will be Alex's turn. Second flight, this is more recent. This is my 10-day vacation that just happened. Going to Puglia. It's not my first time there. I've been like a little bit less than 10 years ago for a wedding. Another wedding. This is a year as a wedding, because in 2 weeks I'm going to a third wedding in Madrid this time. My flight is London Heathrow to Brindisi, and the return is that. And then my friend that you know, Stefan Ganchev, who's getting married, basically says, can you push back your flight? I say, of course, I'm going to do that. And there's no return flight from BA from Brindisi to Heathrow on the Monday. And I'm going on Google Flights, and I find that there is, from an alternative airport, Bari, on Monday to Gatwick. And I try to go on the website of BA, and I try to do that, and there's no effing way you can switch. You can only cancel your flight or change the date of your flight. You cannot switch airports. I realize this is double switching, because I'm not only departing from another airport, but also landing at a different airport. There's no way you can do that online, so I end up calling. So it was really frustrating for a while. Anyway, I call, and as you know, when you call, you have usually, if you do a change, some extra fees to pay on the phone. And it was probably that call the most delightful customer care experience I've had. And I'm only talking BA in a long time.
Wow.
The guy, I think his name was Churchill, very appropriately named Churchill, was fantastic. Not only did he find me, did he made that change very quickly, but it was full of wit and fun, and we had a great chat for maybe just 6 minutes, whatever. It was a gold line, admittedly, because I'm still gold, and then I'm going to lose it in next April. BA, when they want, they can be really effing great.
Yeah.
And that guy was exactly that. I wrote immediately on their something to say, Churchill, that guy, you need to have recognition because he was freaking fantastic. Just listen back to the tape if you still have it. Also added to the surprise that I was expecting to be quoted, because the prices to go to Puglia, south of Italy, in September, even when I bought them back in last March, were extortionately expensive. And we're talking, even if you were flying EasyJet, even if you're flying a low cost, it was at least 500 per person in economy.
Oh, jeez.
And that was in March. So I was expecting to get a flight change for some crazy amount, but I really wanted to do it. And the guy is like, it's going to be 60 pounds. I'm like, are you sure? So the flight on Monday that goes from a different airport to a different airport, and that includes the fees. Yeah, all included 60 pounds. Okay, fine.
Wow.
So I was also, of course, happy about that. But it was the interaction. So BA can be really good when they want.
Yeah.
And this guy was freaking fantastic.
I feel like that's a trend now, right? Because I think that's a trend now, because the last 2 or 3 stories that I've told about calling the BA service center, be it gold or silver, have been extremely positive.
Good, I'm happy.
I know.
Because it's... And it didn't say that because, it was very careful. But He said that he had been very pleased to talk to someone like me because I was very cheerful and, I was not pushing back.
Yeah.
And what I understood, because again, he was not about to criticize other passengers and customers who were calling him, but what I understood is that I understand that if people end up calling is because they've not been able to do anything on their phone or on the web, and they are at a point of frustration higher than at the start of their journey trying to do a change. From what I understood, again, he didn't say so, people sometimes can be very angry or even borderline, probably even insulting, which is not really... And it was like, you're being so nice. I'm like, yeah, but I mean, it's not your fault, I cannot change something. And by the way, I want just to get it done.
Yeah.
I can spend it in the first 5 minutes shouting on why the BA of IT sucks. But at the end of the day, I wanted to change my flight, and it's not his fault.
Exactly.
Right? It's just maybe me. Maybe I'm too polite into space.
No, I think it's important to note.
And it worked. So that second flight, Heathrow to Brindisi, I receive, and we'll talk about that. We're not going to talk about your flight to Berlin this time. We'll do a specific episode about that in other flights. But I received an email the day before that the first wing is going to be closed. And I'm like, what? Again, first world problems. It's fine if there's no first wing. And you told me, you heard or maybe you read something about being a security issue because of that. There was a prisoner who escaped in London.
Yes. Yeah, I think we had experienced the same thing, or at least the fallout from the same thing. I was at City and you were at Heathrow, and there was extra scrutiny to try and find this chap who escaped from actually just up the road from you, right?
I was about to say, yeah. Next door from, it's not the highest security prison, but there's a big prison not very far from where I live. The guy actually taped himself under a truck to escape. This looks like Great Escape type of shit.
Yeah, it's very cloak and dagger.
But you said something that made me also very laugh when you told me that. Were they expecting that the dude would just show up at first wing and just like, yeah, have a flight?
Yeah, it did seem a little bit like, are we sure we're putting the resources in the right place here, people?
Anyway, not a big deal. So I arrived thinking it would be completely closed. But actually, the checking section was open, so it's only security that was closed, which was not clear on the email. So first wing checking counters were completely empty, which is great. I arrive and I give my passport, usual thing, because 10 days plus wedding, needed to check some luggage in. And for the first time ever at BA, she apologized. She apologized for not being able to upgrade me. And I'm like,
wow,
shit, I didn't ask for, like, in my head, I'm like, did I say something because it's early morning and maybe I was too aggressive as she thought that I really wanted? No, but I realized that, I mean, I knew that, but probably that's why. It was my birthday. So maybe she thought that she would make a gesture, but she apologized. She didn't say, happy birthday. Oh, and by the way, she's just like, we're very sorry. I cannot upgrade you. And I'm like, huh? By the way, it would have been my first ever time being upgraded, so I will never get an upgrade for a BA by being gold. But anyway, that was really kind of her. But it didn't trigger until I left, and I said, well, why would she? Yeah. Oh, she probably saw my birth date on my passport or whatever and thought to make a nice gesture. But that was very kind from her.
That is, yeah.
Very nice. Fast track non-first wing is the slow track, as you know, because it's very badly designed and there's too many people and it's cramped and it's and like you said at the end, like when you reach the end, you're like on this almost terrace and everybody is trying to put their belts back on anyways. It's not a great experience, but it's fine, whatever. And then even though the first wing was closed security, the first class lounge is open and we're here like it's 5:30 in the morning and I'm trying to get to that first class lounge. The escalator is closed. The stairs are closed.
What?
So cordon off. And I'm like, how the hell? And then I see there's the elevator, which fits maybe 3 people. That's it. And goes super slow. And there's a queue of about 40 of us trying to get there. I don't know what they were playing at. The result, however, was that the first class lounge, when I finally reached it was very, very empty, completely empty.
That's odd.
And it's the first time I've seen empty in 5 or 6 years. You remember we probably talked about in the podcast, even Alex, we used to go very early in the morning just before it was full. So it's really, 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 really empty. And man, I will say it's tired. As in, when it's empty, you suddenly see all the floors, the wooden floors near the food area they're completely scratched. The carpets are stained everywhere. You know, when it's full of people and luggages and people walking, you don't see that. But when it's empty, I'm like, really, it needs an overhaul. And it's including some of the sofas. I know they replaced some of them because some of them are new, but yeah. When guys come back to the episode I talked about Air France in their new lounge in T2F at Charles de Gaulle, or when you think about some of the lounges at Frankfurt, and guys, you know what I think about Frankfurt. This is not really up to the same standard, and I don't know. They need to do a refurb, but maybe they cannot because it's so full, and if they close it, it's going to be a nightmare. But there's something has to be done. I don't know. They're not competing on that level. Maybe you disagree, but I don't.
No, I agree completely. I think we've been saying that for a while now. They really have to rehabilitate that entire lounge, and it has so much potential, right? Because it's such a great space.
It has.
So hopefully they have that somewhere in their medium-term strategy. I really hope so.
Yeah. Hopefully. And even, in general, when you think, and I know that's unfair, but, Heathrow, the more I go, the more I find it look tired as well. It happens, and that's not the only airport. I said that about Dubai. I don't know. There's something, there's a new CEO which is incoming. He comes from Copenhagen Airport. So hopefully he'll make a better airport and maybe also better working conditions for their staff. And by the way, maybe because he's from Copenhagen, he will be able to deal with the snow when it happens. Yeah. But yeah, it needs something because and even I mentioned that Hakan, whom we had guys on our show as a guest earlier this year, he did a transit via Heathrow going to Stockholm, so just transit. And T2 is the newest, guys. It's really, newest. He's 12 years old or something now, 10 years old, whatever. He landed at T2B, which is that satellite of Heathrow T2. But the transit security had to go to T2A, so he had to walk all the way, do the transit security at T2A. But then his gate was at T2B, so I had to walk back to T2B to actually go in front of the gate. And it took him like 45 minutes in walking. As you know, guys, is walk. There's no trains or whatever. Even if it's a newest one, it's not even practical because you can actually... The only way sometimes I defend Heathrow is that it's functional, but that's not even functional. No. That's not just... It's not great. No. I don't know. So new CEO from not only deal with the snow, but make us a better airport. This flight is a 320 BA. It's pretty old, but it's fine. There's Wi-Fi and we can plug so it's totally nice. A normal economy row. Some people will be shocked that Paul does that. No business class, no etc. Why? And that's interesting. I got a message from BA probably 2 weeks before taking that flight that my seat that I had chosen an emergency exit, my seat had been changed. And I'm like, oh God, I don't have emergency exit, which is fine. The reason is business class in that flight was up to row 17.
Oh, give me a break.
To go to Puglia. And it shows you, and I remember sending you the message, it stinks. Double income, no kids. Like all the people were like young couples or young, not only young. I'm considering myself young, by the way, guys. But couples going on holiday, probably splashing a bit more, maybe going to weddings like I did because it's a very heavy season for weddings. But really, 17, usually you see that when you go to, Zurich or when you go to Mobile World Congress, but you don't see that kind of 17 rows. So yeah, they had gobbled up half of the aircraft by business class, and I was a little bit big in the back. To be frank, 3-hour flight, and so normal, nothing, again, really normal seat, and even with my tall frame, it was all right for 3 hours. I wouldn't have done it for 7, but it was fine, to be honest. It was fine. The service was a bit impersonal, but still okay. They give you this bottle of water that I think is the smallest bottle of water they can get away with. I think soon they're gonna go to alcohol-sized minibar thing, because come on. And they give you some kind of protein bar, and they just there's 2 colors. Probably one was resin, the other one was apple, but they don't even give you a choice. They just give fine, whatever, I was not really hungry or anything. I bought a coffee. I just wanted a coffee. And I don't know how you like your coffee, but they have this thing when you need to let it brew in the hot water, and then you need to squeeze it, and then you need to stir it, and then you need to wait 5 minutes, and then you need to remove part of the package. And by the way, you don't know what to do with that part of the package because it's completely soggy at that point. Can you not just give me like some powder coffee, honestly? Instead of a fancy...
I've seen some of those ones where you have the filter built in to the drinking apparatus. But
that's okay.
That works well until the filter fails and you get a mouthful of coffee. But generally, it means a pretty good cup of coffee. And I have not heard something as complex as you're describing. But it does sound very on brand.
Yeah, overly complicated for just a coffee. Maybe it looks like it's good branding. And by the way, to your point, this is why I always wear a black T-shirt when I fly, because spillage.
Oh, 100%.
People say, Paul, you never wear anything else. So anyway, legroom was fine for 3 hours. It was a good overall flight. I'm very happy to take one like that again in economy. It was really good. Brindisi, my first time. It's very strange when you land there. Have you ever been to Brindisi Airport? Yeah. When you land, you have these strange military white structures at the beginning. They seem pretty old, but they seem very kind of military. And I knew that Brindisi used to be a military airport like back 100 years ago. But what I didn't know is that it's still used by the United Nations as a kind of a global logistics base.
Oh, interesting.
And for peacekeeping operations. So you have some programs there, and you have like blue helmets based there. And that explains, maybe it's very ominous when you land, because it's a wonderful part of, it's very flat. The south of Italy is super flat, Puglia. And then you have these structures, you're like, what the hell are they? The airport itself is tiny. Interestingly, and it's been a while, it hasn't happened, they opened the doors on both sides of the aircraft.
I've never seen that. Not for deplaning.
Yeah. Yes. That was surprising. I was very surprised. And then we walked, because it's,
Wow. So some people would walk through the galley to get...
I don't know why.
Wow. I don't think I've ever seen that.
I've seen that, but like 20 years? No, I don't remember. Like a long time ago.
How interesting.
Not in Europe. Yeah. Anyway, and then we walked. It was like 30 degrees Celsius. We were the only aircraft present. So I was like, yeah, it's going to be good. We're going to be quick in and out. And no, because this time, because it's an aircraft coming from the UK, they decided just to open one lane of immigration. And then, of course, even though I had a passport I could have gotten through faster, I had to queue like everybody else, which took quite a while because, for those... we keep repeating ourselves, they need to check that you've not been more than 180 days and they have to stamp the passport and blah, blah, blah. But I was in the queue for that. The only good thing about that, however, is that when I reached the guy, it's the time when my luggage was starting to be delivered. So basically, actually worked out. It was funny, the dude first looks at my Swiss passport, and then, I don't know why I did that. You probably used to have a Super Nintendo. He was doing the cartridge thing. He was like... breathing on my passport, shaking me on his shoulder. The thing was not reading my passport. The machine was not reading my passport.
That's not how it works, dude.
Was he using an old Olivetti? I don't know. It took him like a good 3 minutes to make my passport work. I was like, I was starting getting like, do I have a fake passport? And by the time I exited that, the belts are there just after that little booth, which tells you how tiny it is. The belt actually is one belt that goes round, and you can see the guys basically dropping the luggages on outside of the building. The luggage comes inside, and the belt is so tiny that they have another staff to remove the luggage and put them on the ground, because otherwise there will be too many luggages on that small belt. So it's really a tiny airport.
Wow.
But the timing couldn't have been more perfect, because exactly when I left the guy after the cartridge thing with my passport, the luggage arrived. There you go. I mean, the advantage, I guess, for that airport is that you off that airport in 1 minute, because you go out and you're like, okay, I'm out. And then I go to Europe car and I take this time a Fiat 500, because as you
when in Rome,
you have to
or Puglia, I guess.
You went in Rome, exactly. However, it says hybrid. And I was like, I look at the guy, I say, yeah, I'm happy to take a hybrid one, because really I love usually hybrids or even electric. But there must be, and I'm not kidding, 4 charging points in the entire Puglia. So I'm like, why do you give hybrids to people.
Yeah.
I had fuel, so good. I drove north of Lecce to a few days of vacation. So it's first time in a while, no email, nothing for 6 days, which I'm still paying now because, of course, this is huge backlog. It was in a castle that two guys, I think from Britain, a couple decided to renovate. It's freaking amazing, guys. Anyway, it was fantastic. And then I went to the wedding in Ostuni of Ganchev, the Boo Boo wedding. Samer was there.
Oh, great.
Remember him from Beirut? Monty, Marvin, Kay came from Japan for 3 days.
Wow.
He flew. And also noting what we said earlier, the fact that there's no route over Russia. So he flew like, I don't know, God knows, 15 hours to Zurich. From Zurich, had to wait and took another flight from Zurich to Brindisi, stayed 3 days and did the whole thing back. That's freaking dedication. Man.
Yeah, it is.
And Marvin, my friend Marvin as well, did that from San Francisco, same for 3 days.
Wow.
I cannot complain about 3 hour flight.
No.
Return, this time Bari. Second time I've been there. I think the first time I've been there was in around episode 45, but I never actually talked about that airport. Look, just prepare to walk, basically, especially if you have a rented car, because the rental car are in front of the old airport, and you're like, oh, there's an airport. It says airport. And you go there like, no. Oh, there's a new one there. Oh, it's about 15 minutes walk. So you walk to the airport. It's a bit of a mess. The checking is... I realized that it's BA Euroflyer. It's the first time I fly them. You know what it is, right?
Yeah.
The Gatwick leisure thing. So BA, after closing Gatwick, guys, they said, we're going to recreate a separate airline. They also call it BA, but it's so fully owned, but it's probably separate contracts or whatever to compete with the leisure market out of Gatwick. They probably didn't pay a lot because they say, oh, you're gold. Yeah, thank you. But we don't have the fast track service. And I could see it just right there. So basically, they probably don't pay the additional fees for that, which is fine because the airport is tiny and security took me 2 minutes. By the way, security is like, I'm waiting in front of that, the usual gate, X-ray gate, and there's no one telling me anything. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to walk. And I walk. And they look at me. They saw me walk. They didn't say anything. I said, okay, fine, I'm going to grab my luggage and leave. This is what I did. They didn't seem, it's very Italian in the cliche. They didn't really seem to care a lot. So, yeah, a bit of, yeah. And then same story than the other time. There's a bridge, but there's no bridge. So you go down, you have to walk, and you walk to the aircraft. Fine. The airport is a bit of a mess. Too small, probably. Look, the one tip I'm going to give you, instead of buying on board or instead of even accepting whatever any airline that leaves from Bari will give you, go grab a sandwich. The sandwiches are so good with their local produce that it's going to beat anything you can buy or, yeah, so do that. No matter if you're in business class or what, it's freaking amazing. I'm in a 321, so these are also aircraft that used to belong to BA and are BA Euroflyer. And I get the best seat in the house, which is emergency exit 10A, where so in front of the seat, there's nothing. So I have the ultra long leg room.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, it's better than most, even business class seats, man. I mean,
yeah, especially for you.
Absolutely wonderful, right? So a friend, Raf Kouan, he was in the same flight. He got upgraded to business class. He was in 1F. And it was like, yeah, you have more legroom than I do. Like, yeah.
I was gonna say you got a better deal there.
Yeah, exactly. And that's it, right? Oh yeah, one last thing, and then I'll let you talk about yours. You know how emergency exits when they come to you and they say, "Oh,
yeah, are you ready, willing, and able?" Or yeah,
exactly. The person in 10C, so the AL seat of that little row when the emergency exits. He was, and it's really not a dig against him because he's very kind. He's an elderly person. It took him time, but also explaining how to close his seatbelt. And I also saw when we left the aircraft, he couldn't open his own seatbelt. He had to wait for someone to help him, which is fine. Again, I'm not here because maybe one day I'll be that age and I'll have issues as well, though maybe that'll be a muscle memory, the seatbelt at least. But was that okay that he would sit in an emergency exit? I'm not sure.
No, I don't think so. At least by the book, anyway.
Yeah. So maybe also the crew said, okay, there's this tall guy, me. You're going to be able to open the door in no time. So basically, but still the other person isn't. And I'm really not a dig again elderly or against this person in particular. But yeah, it was not.
It's an interesting observation.
Be a Euroflyer crew were nice, but that's it. They were not really caring more than this. Yeah. Let's put it that way. And I'm not saying that I'm neutral, basically. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying they were like doing their job and that's it.
Right.
A bit like a low cost.
Yeah.
So not a lot of joy. Anyway. Well, look, that was already very long, so I think I'm going to go to you because I talked a lot. I know it's to compensate for Alex's last episode. So yeah, 3 Italian airports, all by B. I would say out of the 3, the best one is neither. They're all small. But you know what? Have you been to Linate recently in Milan?
No. Megan has, I haven't.
Because a friend, Matteo, wedding I was in July, was also attending this wedding I just was in September, showed me a picture of Linate now.
Yeah.
And holy cow, this is not the rundown, pathetic airport that it used to be in the central Milan. It's not only they have a connection with the metro now, but they revamped everything. It looks really fantastic. A bit like the newest part of Rome FCO look. So look, there's a hope for Italian airports. That's what I'll say. But that program doesn't reach it out of the 3 I've done. Okay, man. I think it has to be your turn because otherwise I'll talk the entire episode. And so you have to tell us. I mean, you can tell whatever you want, but I'm really interested in listening about Turkish Airlines.
Yeah.
Hakan, hello. We talked about it. And the new airport at Istanbul.
Yeah. I think I was working with you on this as I do on pretty much every itinerary I book. Mm-hmm. But it was an opportunity. It was a filming opportunity. I was going there to film an episode of Attaché, which will launch around the same time as this episode, I would imagine. And it was complicated by the fact that after I had a pending speaking gig booked in Birmingham around the same time. So I was waiting for that to confirm or not confirm, as sometimes that happens, before I booked it. And of course I got it. And I had already booked Greg's flight to get out there. He was going to go a little bit earlier than me to capture some B-roll. And I didn't have I couldn't get there any earlier because of the speaking gig. Thankfully, Turkish fly from Birmingham to Istanbul twice a day. And so the timings were perfect for my speech. And also that Megan was coming as well, but she was flying from Gatwick. And it happened to turn out that there was a flight that left Gatwick at exactly the same time and arrived 10 minutes earlier into Istanbul. So it would make meeting up, at least in theory, very easy. And then we could disappear into Istanbul together without having to worry about coordinating or getting her to all that stuff. But I thought, okay, Birmingham Airport, brilliant. Never been. Turkish Airlines, never been on Turkish before, and into the new Istanbul. Right. I mean, I'd been to Istanbul many times, but not since this new airport had opened. So it was I was very much looking forward to it. And you know this better than anybody. My speech was running a little bit late and all of that. And I'm looking at the clock and going, okay, well, it's a 30-minute drive from the venue, which was near the University of Birmingham, to the airport. And I'm looking and going, Birmingham traffic. I've spent a lot of time in Birmingham. But my Uber driver sensed my concern and was ducking and diving and bobbing and weaving through the traffic, which is all very surface streets for like 75% of the journey, but got me there in time. Birmingham Airport, at least its facade, is not an attractive airport. It's not a pretty airport. It's very industrial, which I suppose goes in keeping with the heritage of the city, which was Britain's second city, or England's second city, I should say, manufacturing. But it seems to be undergoing some significant renovations. So the whole facade is under that kind of perma-scaffolding that seems to be all over the UK at the moment. So it's not a welcoming appearance as you pull in. And actually, it's not obvious where you go from where the Ubers drop off and pick up to even get into the terminal, but eventually I found it. And I was actually like looking at how do I get up to the departure level, which is up one level. And I'm looking like, I don't know how to go. And I think they were a flight crew. I'm not 100% sure, but there were these three ladies and they were so kind. They're like, no, you go up here. Like no one ever goes up this way for some reason, but trust me, go up this way. And it was like an unmarked staircase. I actually think it said no entry. But like, just go up here. And and they were so friendly and kind of proactive. I didn't ask them like, where the hell do I go? And at the top of the stairs was this entrance to security. And I could see what they were saying. Like on the other side was the main entrance to security. And there was a huge queue. But it immediately, I'm just pulling up my notes here. It immediately became obvious to me, I'm sure everybody in the area knew this already, that it is a leisure airport. 90%, maybe 95% of people at security were very obviously going on vacation. And you look at the destinations on the board and you look at the airlines serving the airport, they're by and large holiday charters, holiday destinations, not exclusively, obviously. It's an airport where it's a busy airport. But it was, everybody there was in kind of high spirits. And I mean that there's no innuendo there. Everybody was just like, the atmosphere was really nice, even though it was busy and kind of slow to get through security. One of my bags got flagged for secondary screening. So it took a good half an hour to get through security. I was in economy. I don't even think there was a fast track, to be honest with you. But there was nobody sort of eye rolling or going, why is this taking so long? Everybody was sort of very convivial and happy. Rare.
All ages, would you say?
All ages, all backgrounds. It was just not so many kids, if that's what you're getting at.
Yeah, of course. Because interestingly, when I came back, because we're in the same period, when I came back from Bari to Gatwick, this time I said on the way there was a lot of youngish couple, no kids. On the way back, it was a lot of more elderly people.
That's interesting.
Exactly, no kids in both directions.
In this instance, there were the only children were younger than school age children. So toddlers. Mm-hmm. And then it was sort of from, 17 to 117 years old, going through the airport. But, everybody in good spirits. The airport itself feels like a little mini Gatwick. Like there's like a main, there's a main kind of area with shops and restaurants all around it. And then you branch out to these piers of gates. I went into the Club Rooms Lounge because I could get in there with either my Priority Pass or my Amex. There were a couple of other lounges, but this one seemed to be the best reviewed. But to be fair, all of them actually, not just on Lounge Buddy, which is now owned by Amex, but on Google Maps, they were actually all well reviewed, and that's quite rare for lounges, for those third-party lounges. Yeah. And you know what? It was a nice lounge. It wasn't huge, but it was well laid out. It was bright and airy. The staff were all so friendly and so polite and charismatic. The food had a really solid food option for a buffet. It's never going to be like the best thing in the whole world, but it had a phenomenal vegetable curry. Like just delicious. And, it's Birmingham. Like Birmingham's famous for its curry, the Balti Triangle and all that. So it wasn't like hugely surprising. You went up to the bar to get your drinks, which were all free, including things like champagne, which in some of those third-party lounges it's a pay-to-play thing. You're paying $5-6 for a glass of champagne. No. That was all complimentary. The lady behind the bar, again, super, super friendly. What was interesting is that Megan was at Gatwick at the same time, and she was in the Aspire Lounge. And the menu and the amenities, right down to the pancake making robot, were identical. So I guess Aspire and Club Rooms are owned and operated by the same parent company.
Absolutely.
I couldn't remember who it was, but it was a nice. I had given a speech that was hard. It was hard work. It was a tough audience. to kind of make my stuff. It went really well, but it was like an hour and a half session, including Q&A. So I was pretty tired by the time I got to the airport, and I'd gone to Birmingham that day from my house. So it was a really nice place. It was actually one of those few third-party lounges that felt relaxing. It wasn't quiet by any means, but it was just comfortable. It wasn't luxurious, but they just got all the little touches right. There was enough seating, enough tables, enough charging ports and all of that. And I could see I had a very efficient communication from Turkish email, text message, app notification that the flight was 30 minutes delayed. So I knew I had a little bit more time, but I eventually wandered down to the lounge, and this sort of rotunda area in the middle of the airport, or at least the terminal that I was in, it was really clever. Like around the outside wall, they had this W.H. Smith thing where it was just like racks of product, and then the little guy perched at the end that did the checkout. So there was no like browsing in. It was just like a wall of stuff. You grab your thing and go. It was such an efficient use of space. And then around the other side were all of the bars and eateries. And then there was one corridor up to a long pier of gates. It was quite clever the way it was laid out. It felt sort of slightly impermanent, like there was going to be more development done to it, but it was a really efficient use of quite a small space, which why it reminded me of Gatwick, of that main kind of area in the middle. And I walked down to my gate, which the pier itself, it kind of reminded me of I can't remember which terminal in Charles de Gaulle it is, but where you have a long pier and then the gates are cordoned off, like you have to be led into the gate, but floor to ceiling windows, and then floor to ceiling windows separating the corridor from the gate area. So there was lots of light. This is like 5 o'clock in the evening. So lovely, warm, golden light coming in. Mm-hmm. And I went to the gate area again, like super friendly people checking past. Hey, where are you going? What's taking you to Istanbul? The family in front of me were Iraqi, living in Birmingham, mm-hmm. and going back across the land border from Turkey. I had a really interesting conversation from them. They were originally refugees, but had settled in and just like they had like 2 or 3 kids with them. They'll feature later in this story. And I asked the woman who was checking passports, letting us into the gate area, do you guys do upgrades? I was just interested more than anything than actually wanting one for the 4-hour mm-hmm. flight. She said, no, we don't do them. We don't do them at the gate. We only do them downstairs. And she's like, but to be honest with you, the flight's empty. So you're probably going to have a seat next to you. So don't worry about it for now. She's like, you got a good seat as it is. And I was like, really friendly, like beaming smile the whole time she said it. And I sat down, and the rest of I think there was maybe 100 people in the gate area. And it was a 1-year-old A321neo, which is exactly what Megan had out of Gatwick as well. And we were kind of comparing notes throughout the flight because we both had.
You onboarded her to actually give notes for layovers is crazy, man. I didn't expect.
Yeah, I was like, I want you to tell me about your experience. She was gonna do it anyway, believe me. But it turns so we board, and we're like 30 minutes late boarding at this point, and we all board very quickly because there's only 100 of us. And I'm looking, I'd never been on Turkish before, and I'm looking around going, I'd forgotten what a real airline is like. Like you sit, like the cabin is really nice looking, and there's like nice Turkish boarding music playing. You sit down in your economy seat with a huge IFE screen, really good UI, really deep content, like loads and loads and loads of content, tons of content, new movies, TV shows. And I was like, oh my God, I forgot. Comfortable seat. The seat, in fact, next to me was indeed free. I was the second row in economy. And once they said boarding was complete, the woman in the aisle moved across to the empty row opposite. And so I had the whole row to me.
Nice.
And they actually took the family I mentioned earlier with the kids and brought them up to the first row, to the bulkhead row, so they had far more space to stretch out. They proactively, she didn't say, can I move? And the whole crew just like doted on this family, as they should have, because they had 3 young kids with them, and nothing was too much trouble. Brought them stuff, got the IFE all set up for them, so they were on like kids mode and everything. Any food they needed, throughout the flight. It was really, really impressive on both the soft and the hard product. And we did board late, but the captain came on and said, because we are late, we've missed our AT seat slot across Europe, so we're going to be here for another 30 minutes. But we'll try and make up some time on the flight. Push back eventually without a word from the flight deck and take off. You have Wi-Fi from boarding on. Messaging was free, and then I think you had a megabyte allocation for like $6 US. Something like that. Yeah. So Megan and I were just kind of trading just to make sure, like, hey, if I'm late and Wi-Fi doesn't work, just wait here by this spot where and we'll meet up there eventually. The food and drink service was again really attentive. Full meal service. We had the same meal. Megan didn't like it. I did. I thought it was good. It was sort of Turkish-ish food. And multiple drink runs.
The Turkish from Birmingham, yeah.
Turkish from Birmingham. Yeah. Or did they bring it with them? I don't know. I never really fully understand if they... I know that sometimes they bring it with them.
Yes, of course, sometimes. It must cost, in terms of load, it's heavy when you... I don't know.
Yeah, I guess they do the math and figure out, is it going to be cheaper in terms of fuel or catering costs? But it was delicious. They had Turkish wine, which was great. And I watched Top Gun Maverick while going through turbulence. Of course, so I'm like, yes, I am Top Gun Maverick. So it was.
Of course, yeah. You have to go like the sound on that.
Oh, dude, I had my headphones plugged into my Bose, and I had the thing onto like, hearing damaging levels of loudness, and I was just loving it. So it was a great way to pass the time. I was maybe by this point like 35, 40 minutes behind Megan. And so she's landing and she's like, we're taxiing and taxiing and taxiing and taxiing and and then I don't hear from her for a while, and she goes, I think we're close to the gate. I'm like, you've been on the ground for like 30 minutes.
The footprint of that airport is so massive,
just incredible.
That and they have, I think they will end up with like 9 runways, but I don't think they have 4 built or something. I don't remember. But you do taxi a lot.
It was crazy, and of course, 35 minutes later, I experienced the same thing. You land and taxi, and immediately you get a scale not just of the airport footprint, as you said, but also in terms of the size of the structures. The size of the structures are awe-inspiring. Not the hangars, the terminal building, the outbuilding. It's crazy.
100%.
And you're taxiing, and you're like, then you also appreciate just how gargantuan the Turkish Airlines fleet is.
Yes.
As far as the eye can see, there's Turkish Airlines airplanes of all size and description. And of course, they claim that they serve more cities on Earth than any other airline. And when you looked at the connection, they put the connections up on the IFE about half an hour before landing, and you're like, I've never even heard of half of these places.
Yes. No, they're very impressive, and they keep adding. I think they just announced there are 28 new cities on their target.
It's incredible.
They are a huge super connector, and I think they must have more connections than Emirates or Qatar.
I think they really do. It's very, very impressive, and I don't know why I had not flown them in the past. I think it's
you were in One World. That's why.
I was in One World, but I also think that if I was going to Asia, I would just fly direct. If I was going to the Middle East, I would just go to the Middle East. There weren't many opportunities to. I mean, now I will look at them far more carefully in the future, because I was so impressed with that experience. And we were lucky because I didn't want Megan to have to hang around, because by this time it was 11 p.m. local time, if that, maybe 11:30. I didn't want her to have to hang around by herself. And our plane pulled up, I think at like gate C1, off the airplane, and right in front of us was immigration, like literally right in front of us, and nice. There was no one in it. And it was very much like your Italian security experience. There were two guys who were, again, like 15, sat in the security booth. I don't even think they looked at me. And they just sort of stamped my passport and let me through. And you come into the post, I guess there's a bit between arrivals and actually getting out into between baggage or customs and the arrivals. And it's like triple height, the whole, you're looking at 3 floors up before you get to the roof, or the ceiling, I should say. And you're like, this airport is huge. This building is huge.
No, it's insane, man. Huh?
It's
insane.
And I met up with Megan very easily, and we had pre-booked a car, and you kind of go down into the bowels of the parking garage with some guy, and it's like this wonderfully chaotic, organized chaos there with, it felt very Silk Road. It felt like it should. There was people hollering absolutely. And you be over here and horns honking, but I was like, this is it. I love this shit.
I love this shit.
And eventually our car appears. And I'll tell you, we were in what appeared to be a Volkswagen bus. It was just the two of us, but the inside was the definition of a shaggin' wagon.
I saw your story on Instagram. What the hell was that?
It was all like mood lighting, all completely homemade. Like you could see the plywood, plush, like, shag carpeting, these armchair seats that I'm not 100% were actually physically attached to the rest of the vehicle. And we were staying in quite near the Blue Mosque, if you know Istanbul, on the south side of the city. And we're on the road at like just before 1 a.m. at this point. And we're going on the highways, and it's a long way out of town. This new airport. It's an hour in traffic at least. But there wasn't a whole lot of traffic. And we're on the highway, and then we get off the highway and we start to go into town. I'm like, okay, well, we must be going a different way because we haven't even crossed the water yet. So you must know something that we don't. And we go in, and we're going deeper and deeper and deeper into this residential area. And Megan's kind of getting a little antsy, going, this looks sketchy. And I'll tell you what it reminded me. It reminded me of Beirut.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I was like, this looks like Beirut. This is exactly what the residential area is. And I'm thinking, and he's looking at his GPS, and he's like, looking at his GPS, and she's starting to get, I'm not worried about it at all, because this is how this part of the world works.
Exactly.
And I could see on his Google Maps that it showed our destination is like maybe 2 streets over. And I'm like, okay, there's something wrong here, because we're on the other side of the Golden Horn. And I'm like, I showed him the address I showed him in Google Maps, and he's like, look, he pulls up his app, and he's like, we eventually figured out that because we had arrived right at the cusp of midnight, he was looking at today's 11:30 p.m. transfers and not yesterday's, which was technically ours 11. And so he was taking us to completely the wrong place. And he was like, I am so relieved. I'm so relieved, because this is not a good area. He's like, I said, I wanted to say, please don't stay here. Please don't stay here. He's like, where you're staying is lovely, but this is not good. So eventually we get there. Anyway, we had a lovely time in Istanbul.
Just one question. How long did it take you from the airport to where you were staying? Okay, I know there's a little mix up at the end.
It should have taken about 50 minutes, 50.
Yeah. Because that's the only downside that I've heard, because as I told you guys, I've only transited. It's that it's a much far better airport than the old one by like a mile. However, it's far. It's
a long way. And we stayed with Greg near the Blue Mosque, which was a great location for what we needed. And then we actually discovered this rooftop bar on the northern side, on the side of the Golden Horn, and actually decided to move the hotel. We hadn't booked the second hotel yet for the last 2 nights on that side of quite near like Taksim Square, that type of area. Mm-hmm. So you're actually closer to the airport. It was great. Megan loved
Yeah.
Istanbul. I loved Istanbul because I got to really.
I love
it's
that
a
too, man.
phenomenal city. I loved it there.
Yeah.
and I'd forgotten how much I liked
Yeah,
it.
for
there.
me, love
Yeah,
that city.
we pre-booked a car going back, and because we were that much closer on that side of the water to the airport, it took about 40 minutes on a Sunday morning. And again, like it's kind of in the middle of nowhere now, the airport. But as you approach it, it's this imposing superstructure on the horizon, and you realize we're still like 2 or 3 miles out, and it's just this monolith up on a sort of slight ridge, you know.
Yeah.
And as you pull up, it's just like looming over you. And Greg had left a couple of days before because he had some stuff to take care of back home, and he's like, just FYI, it took a long time to get through security because there's all the additional screening as is in many parts of of the world. So even to get into the airport, you do a initial scan of all your bags, basically, you know, and all of yourself, you know, with a little less scrutiny than you do just to get in. And I should say this now: we were not flying back on Turkish because we were flying back on Wizz.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, we were flying back on Wizz because the timings timings didn't work out on Turkish.
I was expecting you to learn about the a different product for Turkish, but anyway.
No,
go on.
I was
Sorry.
hoping it just the pricings and the timings didn't work out. I'll talk about Wizz in the next episode because we're a little short on time here, but I'm getting so done with ancillary revenue grabs at every single possible point in the journey, to the detriment of operations and the customer experience. But we'll come to that in a little bit. Because I needed to have a effing bag to carry my clothes in, I had to pay, and implicit in that package, quote unquote, was priority some bullshit, which gave me nothing. Except for the ability to use the priority check-in. And so we had to have our documents verified because I don't believe that you can do mobile check-in at Istanbul Airport going to certain destinations. Ours was one of them. But whatever operational issues I think maybe they had at the beginning of that airport seem to be gone now, because from security to the Wizz Air quote-unquote premium check-in to getting our boarding passes and then getting in line for security was just a few moments. The thing that struck me about that airport is how much it reminded me of Chaplak Kok.
Oh, yeah.
The high ceilings,
Yes.
the check-in deck, the layered experience as you go in, which of course is nothing. That's the biggest compliment I can pay to an airport. Security itself was busy, but fast and efficient. I think they've got it down to an art. You have to do outbound immigration, but it all worked well. It was all a very well-oiled machine. You could tell. And no matter what passport you had or what weird place you were going to, it didn't matter. The process was down. It worked well, and you were through quickly into this mammoth departure hall, and it's just freaking huge, just with every manner of
This isn't right.
Turkish bazaar. And then you're in the lower area, and you can see up. There's a huge food court on one side that extends most of the side of the terminal with brands from all over the world. It was like being in Dubai. And then on the left side was this waterfall terrace of one of the third-party lounges, and that's where we went very briefly. And this lounge, I don't know if you've been inside of it.
No, I've only been to Turkish lounges. Turkish airline lounges.
It was so big that they had 6 or 7 check-in desks just to get into the lounge, as well as 4 or 5 gates. So if you had the right boarding pass, you could just scan yourself in and go. Because I had priority pass or Amex or whatever, I had to go into one of the check-in desks, and I thought this place is going to be heaving if they've got a list. And it was like the Emirates lounges in that it was open to the rest of the airport, but spread across like half of a level of the entire airport. Huge, with like an open
Scale.
chef station and a huge buffet, you know, and a like a long stretch bar that you would see in a grand hotel in London, and you know, a cordoned off non-alcohol area, and then, like I said, these balconies that go down overlooking the airport. It was easily, without question, the biggest third-party lounge I have ever seen in my life, and very, very comfortable, very good, very well appointed. The food looked good. We didn't try it because I clocked Carl's Jr. across the airport, and I was like, I want that. I want to go back to Istanbul soon for lots of different reasons, but I want to experience the airport again because it was truly just magnificent.
No, it is impressive. The one question, when you so your gate was not in that lounge?
No, the gate, you had to go back downstairs to the concourse level and walk and walk and walk and walk and walk.
I know, you walk. I mean, there's also like travelators or whatever. But I think
at the individual gate piers there are,
Yeah, so my question is, because that's where so that area you were, the big one with all the lounges and the food and the duty free is just impressive, and it was already there. The one thing that wasn't, or maybe still isn't, I don't know, or I question it, is when I was at these gates, so these piers, if you want, where all the gates are, it felt that it was meant to have a few coffee places or convenience stores. There was nothing back when I went, and it was, you know, just after the opening. Is it now a little bit more?
Yes.
Are there amenities?
Yes.
Okay.
When you come out, because we were on the far end of the airport terminal from where our gate pier was, and you're walking and walking, and you're not walking through emptiness. You're walking through museums, like actual museums, and like you say, like restaurants and duty free, like going, this is just huge. And then you come to the pier and you're walking and now they've got like, you know, Cafe Nero and all that spread out. Like, so yes, there are more amenities and interest.
Because those were not there back in.
No. And I think they probably had some feedback, like, you know, I've walked, you know, the length of the Bosphorus to get here. And now here I am, and there's nothing here. When we arrived at our gate, there was a Turkish flight to Zurich just leaving. And then we all sat down as that flight closed, and they said, okay, everybody get out. Everybody needs to leave because we have to rescreen every single one of you. Oh, wow. And so you went out into the main where the travelators were, and then one by one, check your passport, ask you security questions. And then every single person's bag was re-inspected, explosives testing, and then and then on into the boarding area, into this incredibly full flight on Wizz, which this is the interesting thing. We were flying because, again, of the timings, to Luton, and I had only ever been out of Luton once before, and I was not a fan, so I was not really looking forward to it. But the flight itself was like, it was pretty uneventful. We were a little bit late in the end. Not much communication, but it was very low cost carrier service. Not much interaction beyond let us try and sell you things. I think Megan and I had eaten in the concourse, but we both ordered like a soda and a packet of biscuits or something on the way. And we landed at Luton and we waited 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 and waited and waited and waited and waited. Like, what's happened? And no one said a damn thing. No one said anything. There was no like, hey, sorry, I don't know what, there's no bridge. We just waited. And eventually like, okay, front doors are open. Down onto the stairs, into the rain and into Luton, and passport control was the e-gates and they worked fine, but that's a pretty depressing airport. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah. I mean, it's not practical for us because we both live more south.
Yeah. Although to be fair, it has the last time I went there, you took the train up from St. Pancras, you got off, and then you had to take a shuttle bus from the train station to the terminal. They've now built an autonomous air train type deal. So you jump on that, you're in St. Pancras in 35 minutes, and then from us, actually, it's not that hard to get. So it really wasn't too bad. I'm going to save the rest of my. I'm going to put both barrels at Wizz Air, even though it's not just them about the ancillary revenue stuff. Next episode, but yeah, the takeaway TLDR from this is Turkish Airlines. Wow, Istanbul Airport. Wow, looking forward to experiencing both of those again very soon.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm looking forward to experience Wizz, but I mean, I'm sure it's all right. Would you say it's EasyJet or less or more?
Yeah, I think in terms of in-flight product, it's EasyJet. Greg flew them both ways and was complimentary. I think it just worked. I think generally was the vibe. Megan had flown them. This was my first time on Wizz. She had flown them Budapest, Gatwick, and said it was fine. And I don't, it was a brand new airplane. I think what bothers me about them and everybody else is this unbundling to the point of you got to be kidding me at this point.
I agree fully with you. It's also the implementation of it that makes so the explanation is sometimes. Let's start with that. The explanation can be, I don't know how it was on Wizz, but sometimes I'm buying something on a traditional airline and they call it economy light, and I'm not exactly sure of because they say, but no, you can only 7 kilos, and the other one can have 10, and you have like this size, and I'm like, what? It's not always clear. And even when you go on the website, and you and me know how to do that, and I'm sometimes like, what can I bring? Like even on BA, I was like, I had to, when I call this Churchill, that's his name. When I called Churchill, see, I know people in high places. When I called Churchill, I told him, but what fare am I? I cannot find on my app or online. I'm not exactly sure what I'm allowed to. I mean, I know I'm gold, so it actually, gives a little. But for me, that's the first problem is when these new fares and unbundling is sometimes I'm not even sure what I'm allowed to bring or to do. And then on board, on the airport, it's where like you create 25 groups with 25 different experiences and you don't know exactly what to do and what to follow. It's not, I understand that someone with this Excel spreadsheet thinks a good idea, it's additional revenue, but it just doesn't always work. And most of the time doesn't work actually on the ground. It's just a freaking nightmare, I think.
It's frustrating.
I'd rather pay nothing and give me nothing.
Yeah, exactly. It's frustrating.
So, we'll talk about it next. I know Alex has to leave. Sorry, we have had it's a little shorter maybe episode. We've had some trouble with the audio at the start. I hope everything will be fine. One other airport that we both looking forward to go to finally, and Alex just missed it by a few months, is the new Abu Dhabi Midfield Terminal that is supposed to open in November. I mean, they haven't officially said a date. However, and if you watch that this summer, if you want to see it in its full glory, watch Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. They are in Abu Dhabi, and I was looking at this like, this is Midfield. This is Midfield. There's no way. This is Midfield. This is the hallway, the lounge, everything. And then I went online and I looked, everything was filmed. So they opened Midfield, so that new terminal, the new airport, just for Tom Cruise, even runs on the roof of it. Guys, he runs his famous run. You can see everything is operational. It's basically it's an ad for the new Abu Dhabi airport. And you can really see, and I really hope that Alex and I are allowed to run on the roof of it whenever we go next, like Tom Cruise.
I'll be disappointed if they don't let me, frankly.
On that, I will let you go. Before the music, what are your next flights? You know where you're going next?
Rhodes in 2 weeks.
No way. Mm-hmm. I hate you right now.
Yes, my wife has a milestone birthday coming up, so we are going to Rhodes for a few days.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, but you told me. We discussed. I'm so sorry. We discussed about it. And for me, will be, what is it? Madrid. Also in 2 weeks. So
very envious.
We'll be in holidays at the same time. Let me play you the where is it? There. Thank you guys for listening to both of us just rant about our plane. The next episode, I don't know when it's going to be. There's a few options. As you understood, we had cooking a few things that didn't go. We didn't prepare them correctly, so the end product wasn't. So we'll have
2 episodes coming up. I don't know when. That will be a bit of fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this.
That way. And next time, since we talked about Midfield Terminal, I want to talk about Hijack. It's that series on Apple TV
Idris Elba?
Yeah, with Idris Elba. Because there's a lot of plane in there. There's a lot of AvGeek trivia.
Oh, nice.
So, guys, don't look it up if you want a surprise. Because if you look up, you're not going to have this. Right? Anyway, thank you, Alex.
Right, safe travels, everybody.
Happy travels.
Yeah, be you too. Sorry.